Hey everyone, my name is Kendra.
And my name is Ashley, and this is
Real Talk over Riesling.
So today I wanted to talk Black love,
Ooh.
more specifically struggle love
Oh.
amongst Black men. I said it's super appropriate since it's Black History Month, right?
And Valentine's Day is tomorrow.
Exactly. So let's talk love.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the basher. I'm not the basher.
Okay.
But I said, I do feel it's kind of hard loving a Black man.
And so I'm curious, what do you think are some of the hardest parts about it?
Where do I start? I think honestly, and this has obviously been from my experiences. I can't speak on everybody. Some people probably have easier experiences, but I think for myself, it's just been an uphill battle of, I think, softening a Black man. Okay, getting him to see that he holds a certain weight and he has to be the provider and the nurturer as well. I think a lot of Black men have been hardened. And I think that, it's kind of hard for them to have the aspect of putting somebody on a pedestal when they also have to worry about themselves. So I think it's been, for me, just a struggle trying to instill that balance in them that, they kind of been like, not necessarily doomed from the start, but
Yeah. And, I think there's something about making it our responsibility to instill that value in them, right? Like, there isn't necessarily that need. I do agree that there's definitely, there's an uphill battle, right? Like there is kind of that thing. And I do think that in all senses, there are things around us that have hardened us and have impacted us and kind of like made it really difficult to kind of exist in that way. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I think that it is really difficult. I think in particular, when you're framed as having to kind of be all things for your family, I feel like Black men really position a lot of their self-worth on how well they're able to live up to what those expectations are, right? And so if you're connecting your self-worth as a person to how well you can provide or how well you're supporting your friends and your family or how successful you are, right, in terms of what society deems as successful, I think that also causes a lot of mental health issues, and I think that that is where some of the spiraling comes. And it's really left to the people who are partnered with Black men to kind of tend to their emotional needs.
But I'm not your mama. I'm not your mama.
Nobody.
So at the same time, I'm like, damn, you know what you're getting yourself into in a sense, okay? I feel like in any relationship, it's not always going to be, awesome. You're not always going to have this honeymoon stage. There are going to be hard times, but again, and I can only speak from the relationships that I've been in with men of color, I feel like sometimes we care a little more than them. And I feel like sometimes, we put a lot of their responsibilities for them to make sure that they are okay emotionally, mentally, on ourselves. And that's where I say this whole theory of struggle love comes in for me, because I'm like, damn, I know I make sure I'm in therapy. I need to be in therapy, okay?
Yeah.
For many reasons. But just for me to feel okay and feel like I have a vent and I can get all of my emotions out in a judgment-free place. It's like at the same time you come into contact with some of these men and they have so many things pent up. Yeah. And we want the same for them. And we want things to be easier for them. Yeah. We want them to be able to talk about it. But sometimes you find they don't want to. It's like a shut wall.
Yeah. And I mean, the Black woman proverb is, fuck it, I'll do it my damn self.
Okay.
And so when you get a dude who maybe is not all the way there, you're just like, what, we're going to fix you.
Right.
We're going to figure it out. And I think that traditionally, Black women have been carrying our communities on our backs, I think, handling everything. And I don't think, and we've talked a little bit about this, that I think that what we're talking about is really a symptom of something else. And so this is not, for me, is not in any way to say that, Black men are being this way just for shits and giggles or because they feel like it, but that there are other things that are impacting them, that are kind of like creating the conditions for them to behave this way, particularly when they're in relationship with their women. And I think, patriarchy and misogyny is super huge in the Black community. And I think that for me, a lot of the things that I like to explore is like, how do I take like my own radical responsibility for that? How are the ways that like I reinforce patriarchy, right? Because I know that I get around a lot of sisters who say, you know, my man needs to do this and he can't do that and he can't do that. And so it's like how much of that stuff that we're putting on black men, like, because I'm just like, how are they behaving and interacting? And so I think that black men have a responsibility, right? Because we didn't ask to be born into patriarchy and misogyny and white supremacy and all of the things that impact us, but we have a responsibility to heal. And so that's why when you say, like, you know, I make sure that I'm in therapy, it's like you still have a responsibility to do your work. And as a woman, you want to make sure that your partner, you have to trust that your partner's doing their work too, without you wanting to push them. Like, you want them to take the initiative. And I think that there aren't enough examples on what that looks like. For black men to kind of take that initiative and kind of do it themselves. You hit
the nail on the head. There are not enough examples. I literally was trying to go through and, you know, educate myself because obviously we know it as a fact that black men, people of color, are not raised in two-parent households versus that of other races. That is a fact. There are less, hell, we're less in general, you know what I mean? So a lot of those statistics are tied in with the fact that we are a minority. We do not take up the majority of the population to begin with. So, you know, we can argue that, but you know, we don't come from two-parent households. I did not come from a two-parent household. You know, I did not see a man loving on my mom correctly. You know, so those are things that I feel like I've tried to figure out on my own. What is that supposed to look like? And what's a healthy example of a relationship? But you come into contact with these men and you find out their stories, black men, and theirs is just as common as mine. They didn't come with somebody loving on their mom. They came with a mom that said, shit, let me figure it out. You know what I mean? So I said a lot of times men are drawn to these women with these shit, let me figure it out mentalities, which honestly, I don't want to say gives them an excuse. But in a sense, they're not living up to their full potential because they come with these women that are figuring things out for them.
Absolutely. You know, and you and I talk a lot because both Ashley and I have sons and we're both raising boys. And I'm always curious about how much of the caring is also enabling when you're raising boys, right? Because I think it's really hard for moms.
It's hard.
Because, and I think that this is also like a narrative. There is a narrative that's like a woman can't raise a man, which right? Like I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that that's true. But I think that women, because they're trying to overcompensate and make up for the fact that there aren't men in the house, then they're like recreating the same things that you want men to unlearn, right? It's like this is what a man should do. This is how a man should be. And so then you have women who are internalizing patriarchy and then teaching it to their sons, and then men who are growing up in that way because they're trying to, like, you know, and it must, and it's hard. I can't imagine, right? Like, I'm just like, this is not in any way a jab because it's like a struggle.
It's not. No, like, it's not a jab. It's our experience. It's our reality.
There's no
real talk over Riesling, okay?
There's no book. There's no book on how to say this is how. I mean, there are examples, right? Like, there are people who are definitely doing this work, but there's not really a book that says, hey, as a single woman, this is how you raise a gentle boy, and this is how you raise an accountable man, and this is how you raise somebody who will grow up to be a good husband and like present and emotionally available for their wife. There are things that you can do, and there are some things that like I practice, but you know, ultimately, because of all of, I think all of the intersecting issues with our lives. You know, if your mom is working 3 jobs, then maybe she doesn't have the time to bring you to where she's bringing you. And so like there are other things that feed into the outcomes that we see in our communities. And so I'm always curious as to what are some things, because to me, I'm just like, you know, we can talk about men until the sun comes up.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how do we focus on where we need to focus, and how do we encourage more men to do the work with other men, right? Like there's not enough men who are doing the work with other men.
That's what it is. I think examples. It's literally examples. For, like you said, examples start in the household. You know, my son is 2. And I find myself, like you said, conditioning myself to kind of be the everything for him. And obviously that's my baby. That's going to be my baby forever, probably. But in the end, that's also going to be somebody's husband, hopefully, you know, knock on wood or whatever, you know, and he's going to be someone's soulmate. And I want him to go on to be a productive, beautiful man in society, to go on and do beautiful things. So I question myself on, with everything that I feel Black men are not, how can I do it, or how can I make it so that this Black man that I'm raising is everything that I feel like?
And you can't, because you literally can't be everything.
You can't.
And so, nobody can, right? And so thinking about what are the ways that you can nurture that in him, and then what are the ways that other people can nurture that in him? Who are the people that, that your son is going to be around? What are the ways that he's going to be taught? Because we can't, and I think that there's something to be said there, when we talk about struggle love, that it's not just romantic love. It feels like struggle love all around. Like I think we're so focused on like trying to survive and like making it day to day that we actually don't even know how to practice like loving each other.
No.
Like what do friendships look like? What does you being in community look like in a Black community, particularly when everybody's like living under the thumb of capitalism and white supremacy? Like, how do we love each other?
Right.
How do we take care of each other? And so, it's like, it's easy to focus on like your own interpersonal, but it's just like, oh, everything's fucked up. Everything is fucked up in this moment. People are really struggling with keeping their relationships together. People are raising kids alone, and that's not how, right? Like, that's not how our people do it. That's not how my people do it, where I come from. And so I feel like there's just so much work to do for us to learn how to be with each other and how to love on each other and how to take care of each other, because you shouldn't have to figure out how to make sure that your son is a well-rounded young man on your own, because it's just not realistic. You need other people, right?
Yes, it
you
takes
need
a village.
You need
it
the
really
softness.
Does.
You need the people who are going to hold him accountable. You
Yes.
need the people who are going to say, hey, I'm your shoulder to lean on, and you need the people that are going to say, hey, no, this thing that you're doing is wrong.
Right.
And all of those people are not going to be the same person.
They're not. And I think that also ties in with, I'm learning as I get older, especially as I took on this men ain't shit mentality. I change it up, because some men are shit. Some men are in fact the shit.
Everybody is compostable.
Yes, some of them I'm like,
even
wow.
if you are trash, you can be composted.
Yes, so some of them really surprise you. I'm like, wow, this is a man, okay? But I'm realizing that it all has to do with how you were raised and where you come from. It really does. You hear some of these Black men's story, and you couldn't even imagine. And you're like, damn, like, props to you for honestly like making it this far, literally. In my eyes, I could still probably bash you, but I shouldn't, because with how you started, and you to even make it this far on your own without even having like the resources or the people behind you or family, or anything. You didn't have a village, and you still managed to make it this far. It's like we don't give enough credit.
Yeah. And I think the men who are success stories, right? They are, it's not the rule. They're the exception. And so when I talk, a lot of people really push this, like, pull yourself up by your bootstrap mentality, because I did it. And it's like, yeah, but you're the exception. Like, you and a handful of other people are the exception. It's actually not a possibility for everybody to pull themselves from their bootstrap, particularly when you have like ages and decades and like generational issues that you have to heal, right? It's like
systematic issues,
systemic generational issues, right? And so it's not actually possible. Like it's actually not possible for everybody to pull themselves off their bootstraps. And so for me, I think it's really a thin line, because I'm always trying to balance, like, and this is why I say, even if the way that we are living today and the way that our communities look and the culture, like the way that we're functioning culturally, even if those things are not of our making, we still have a responsibility.
Yes.
And so I always try to balance that, because I don't want to infantilize Black men. I don't want them to be like, oh no, the world has done you so dirty and therefore it's okay that you're like this. Like, you still have a responsibility to do your work.
You still have a responsibility to be a decent person. I feel like a lot of times too, just like you said, it's rare that we have those success stories. It's rare that we come across these men that just came from the gutter and were able to totally make themselves into like the epitome of like it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, depression is real. Depression is so real. There have been some times where I've like been like, damn, like, I don't know what's up with me, like even after having a baby and having postpartum, I'm like, feel like we have to be hard. You know what I mean? Black men, Black women. And I didn't even want to admit, like, yo, I'm sad every day. Like, I'm really sad every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't want to talk about it. So I was like, yo, I feel crazy. Like, I got to say I'm sad every day.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of times, too, you have these men. They're supposed to be men, and you have women, that are relying on these men in certain aspects. And they're not able to say, like, damn, I'm sad.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah,
I don't feel like getting up today. I don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
And, they're not allowed to say stuff like that.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like, how do we invite men? How do we as women invite men to be softer and more authentic? And how do other men invite men to be softer and more authentic with what's going on in their lives, right? Because I feel like and I'm sorry, y'all, but the men's friend, like your friends groups that I be seeing you around, like it's just like,
Trash.
nobody's ever taken a minute to say, hey, bro, how you really doing? It's just it's just a lot. And so I really do think that men also need to be men need to learn how to be better to women, but y'all also got to learn how to be better with each other. You know what I mean? Like, how are you taking care of each other? How are you inviting your friends to be softer and real about what's happening with them? Because ultimately it's like, you got to do the work, but if you're not real about what's happening, then you're not even taking the first step in saying what's real. So,
and I said it has a lot, and like you said, the friends, the company you keep, and even with us, it took me. I'm 28 years old, and finally after having a child and slowing down and just taking a pause in my life and just trying to understand really what am I about, what do I want to accomplish in life, what type of woman do I want to be, is when I started having compassion for other people.
Yeah,
because I had it's me. Like, why can't I find a man that's going to take care of me?
Yeah.
Why can't I find a man that's going to do for me? I see all these things, all these women on TV that got these men, you know what I mean? They're freaking rolling out red carpets for their women, buying them cars, buying them this, buying them that. And, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's not realistic. And I feel like the type of individual you are, you attract what you put out.
Yeah.
So I started realizing, with me always claiming I'm attracting these ain't shit men. Sis, what's going on with you on the inside? Like, you know what I mean? And finally, I went to therapy and I said, you got to get right, like, mentally. You have to get right with yourself. So I said a lot of times us black women are so quick to fault the next man. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like you said, we are not looking at ourselves through a clearer lens to say, why are you attracting these types of men?
Yeah. And I'm curious about that, of like, that you attract what you are, because there are a lot of folks who are really good people, and I feel like people who are like ain't shit, or people who are like abusive, or who want to manipulate, I feel like they go for the people who are particularly good people, so that they can get away with it. And so it's a little hard because I think what women often do is that they gaslight themselves. Men will do something wrong to you, and then you're kind of just like, oh no, this, and they'll convince you that it's your fault, that there are things that you're not doing. And, exactly. Yep. And so I really do think that men who are particularly invested in upholding kind of like that kind of behavior, I feel like they go for the good people. And so I don't know that it's always, I do think that you still have to do your own work.
You do. You have to do your own work.
And but it's hard to say. Yeah.
It is hard to say, but I also do feel like when you start doing your own work, even at the instance of some shit like that, you ain't going for that.
Yeah, your boundaries are really clear.
Exactly.
Your boundaries are really clear. You have to have really clear boundaries.
You might get over on me, but it takes for you to do that one thing to me, for me to say, I deserve more than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that ties in huge. And when you start holding men accountable, if they really care about you, men are going to do the work. If they want to keep you around, and if they want to change for you, and know that they need to be a better man, the minute we start putting down more boundaries and saying, hey, I'm not going for this no more.
Absolutely.
Then
they will
it will change.
They will either follow suit, they will show up better, or they won't.
Or they won't show up. And that's the end of that.
Fine. Exactly.
See you later.
You have to go. Because I think at the end of the day, we do ourselves a disservice when we let people kind of step over our boundaries and cross our lines without doing it. And so it's also like, what is the expectation? But I think, when you said like, oh, struggle love, it's just like, if you're setting an expectation that this is how it is. This is how men are.
I so wanted
this
to
is
ask
how
you that.
relationships are.
Yes.
And everything is hard, and like every man cheats, or every man does this. If you're positioning that, then it's like you're kind of like taking your boundaries from being right here and moving them farther and farther until they're not there.
They're not there.
And then you're just allowing for things to happen to you. And I know that we're talking specifically about like romantic relationships right now, but it's like literally everything, right?
It's
just like
life.
when you let like people at work, your friends, your family members cross continuously your boundaries, then it's like they don't exist. It's like you're doing yourself a service and taking care of yourself by upholding your boundaries.
So I said, you know what? At the end of the day, obviously, in my head, I said, hey, we cannot condition ourselves to expect disappointment anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what has honestly been happening. You know, in my head initially when I said, damn, you know, dating other races for me was it. Like, honestly, it was at a point in time. I said, if I could get with a white man, if I could date a white man, because I felt like it would just be so different. And that is not true.
Yeah.
You know, you have to come to terms with disappointment exists. It doesn't matter the race. It just is what it is. Yeah. But when you are so in touch with yourself and you're so in touch with your boundaries, that disappointment is not going to come into fruition because you're going to say, hey, this ain't for me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not acceptable anymore.
It's not acceptable.
Yeah, and I think the main thing for me when we talk about Black folks and learning how to love each other is really being aware of what are the systemic implications that are making way for this. But I think that we put worth on people. We set standards by which we make decisions on whether or not people are worthy of being loved.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And so I think that for me, the most important thing is, like, you know, you're saying, like, how are you self-analyzing what you're worthy of love if you do X, Y, and Z versus if you do X, Y, and Z, then you're not worthy of love.
You don't even know
right?
how many I literally can think with myself. I have been conditioned as that. I have met men that have told me, you know, you're loyal if you do this. Yeah. You're loyal if you do this. Yeah. You're loyal if you do for me, or if you go and if you give me money, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, you're loyal then. Yeah. So in the back of my head, I'm not like, this is unhealthy. I'm thinking that, wow, like that's okay.
This is the expectation.
This is right.
Yeah.
So it takes time to unlearn this behavior, and like I said, and like you said, we have to be softer with one another. Yeah. You know, and there needs to be more compassion for both Black men and Black women.
Absolutely.
You know, because at the end of the day, we're raising the next generation. Black men are raising more and more Black daughters.
Absolutely.
And it's like at the end of the day, we want them to be better than us. Yeah. And we're still just figuring it out.
And I think that's the goal. And, you know, I know that it's like cliche to say that children are the future, but you see it now in all of the young people. Like, they are so much more different than we are.
So different.
You know, like, kids in high school are like, oh yeah, therapy. Oh yeah, feelings. Oh yes, depression. Like, it's so much more openly talked about now. And so I know that we're kind of just like, you know, the world is going to shit and we're not doing, but we're like, folks are really doing an amazing job. I think that the kids are learning from our mistakes.
They are.
And they're picking up on things that we weren't at that age. Like, there are things that are normal now that weren't normal when we were growing up when we were that age. And so that's actually really beautiful to see for me. But my hope is that we can, like you said, how do we learn to be more gentle with each other? And then also, how do we learn to be more protective with ourselves and and be real about our boundaries and what our expectations are?
Okay, more protective about ourselves. I love that.
Black men don't cheat. Oh.
They're selling you a dream.
So you want to know what's so crazy? So I never ever listened to the song. I didn't.
There's a song?
There's a song, girl.
Okay, you can revoke my pop culture card right now because I did not know.
Mine was clearly just reinstated because I just found out that there was a song. So, you know, in the midst of doing my whole like Black men research, I was like, oh, okay. I heard about Black Men Don't Cheat.
Yes.
There's a whole T-shirt line. Like, this is a thing.
I know. And so I remember when it came out.
Yeah.
And when it came out, it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek joke on Twitter, and the Black men on Twitter were kind of like hashtagging it.
Girl.
And so I think that it's really funny that it's kind of turned into this thing.
It's a thing.
Because I do still feel like it's tongue-in-cheek, even if it's real. Like, I think it's tongue-in-cheek. I think they're trying to say, like, hey, come on.
Yes.
You know that we don't? But that is so... I mean, not to say that everybody does, but that's just like, what?
and honestly, for me, like, I don't want to say it's insulting. I'm never going to say it. But anytime I always see, like, some of the things, you know, us as a whole, I feel like Black people, we have more comedy about us. We have, like, a certain... swag about us.
You gotta laugh to not cry. You gotta laugh to not cry.
Exactly, we do. So, you know what? I wasn't even mad at the fact that, okay, we had Smile, bitch, and now it's like Black. All right, cool. But at the same time, I was just like, now y'all know Black men are a touchy subject for some of us women.
Yes, of course.
Why you gonna go and do that?
Yeah.
Why are you gonna go and do that? So I felt a way about the whole Black men don't cheat. And then I literally was on YouTube and I was reading through some of the comments, and I read a comment. It was like, my uncle is playing this as he's cheating on his wife right now. I was like, oh. I was mortified. Like, see, that is that stuff, and
It happens.
It does happen.
It happens. You know, I think for me, I'm really the thing about cheating for me is that
Girl.
I do think
My
that
little heart.
I know. I was like, this is it's one of the like deepest heartbreaks that a person can experience, just like that kind of thing. And so I know that it's really difficult to like talk about that, but I do think that there is something to be said about the social capital that people get from being partnered, like either being in a relationship or being married.
Yep.
It seems like, you know, like there are a lot of places where people are just like, you know, why are you listening to this person and so? They don't even got a man. Like as if like
that's it.
There's like exactly. It's like
that is
having a man, being married, and having a family is kind of like, you know, it gives you like a level of like social capital.
It absolutely does.
And believability.
Yep.
That I do think that because of that, people yearn for that and they search for that.
Yep.
And people settle down
Yeah.
sooner and with the wrong people when they don't
true.
need to.
That is true.
And so I think is really a big part about why people cheat. And I think, you know, it's like there's something about violating trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something, you know, as we talk about black men and black men living in a world where they feel like they're not being loved or cared for because they're not, because the world is shit to black men.
Yeah.
Where they do things to kind of test it. Like, if I do this, are you going to leave me
What you gonna do,
and
right?
abandon me like everybody else?
Because I'm not your mama.
Yeah, exactly.
I'ma
It's
keep
like,
saying it.
Are you going to treat me bad? Are you going to leave me just like everybody else does? And it's just like, yes.
Yes, I will.
I am, in fact, going to leave you just like everybody else does. But it's almost like they're testing your loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
They're testing to see. You know, I think that there's this myth of people being loved unconditionally.
There is a huge myth about that.
Yeah.
Yes, girl.
My love is conditional. My love is conditional. You can't do whatever you want, and that does not mean that you are not expected to mess up.
Now, has that been learned for you?
That has definitely been learned for me.
And I feel like I am still learning that. I am still learning that.
Yeah.
You know, I am still learning because some days I feel my love is conditional, and some days I feel like, you know, my love is not conditional.
Yeah.
And I have unconditional love for this man or, you know, because I love them.
Yeah.
You know, it's always because you love somebody. And I think
you do.
That's I do feel that's the nurturer in us. You know, women as a whole, you know, I didn't always want kids. I see people's kids, I'm like, oh, like I don't have that maternal, oh my God, I want to pick up your kids.
I am also that person.
Yeah, I don't have that. So I'll never say I have this like maternal instinct, but I just think as a whole, as a woman, you know, we do have that soft spot sometimes.
Yeah. And how much of that is learned? How much did people tell us that as women we needed to do this emotional labor for men, and then we just learned how to do it and we just keep doing it because people keep telling us that we have to do it, right? And so you end up doing that emotional labor, which I think is important. Like when you're in a relationship with somebody and you want to be supporting them and being emotional and being in that thing for them. But I think for me, like when I'm thinking about unconditional, it doesn't mean that I'm not supporting you.
Correct.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not here and nurturing and caring for you the same way that I would want you to care for me. But you don't get free range to do whatever you want. Because again, like I said earlier, right, you want to set that boundary.
You have to.
I have to set my own boundaries. And you know, James Baldwin said, if I love you, I need to make you aware of the things that you do not see.
Yeah.
And so I think that a part of loving people is also holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Like, I love you and therefore I want you to be better than you're being right now.
Loving with limits.
Exactly.
Loving
it's
with
not
limits.
it's not about, you know, saying that I'm going to stop loving you if you do X, Y, and Z, or saying that you are no longer lovable if you do X, Y, and Z. But it's really about like, I love you and I want you to be better. So when you're fucking up, I'm trying to tell you that you're messing up. And how, as a person, are you receptive to that?
How
right?
are you
like,
receptive to it?
How can you be receptive to that? As, you know, like, how am I better receptive to that? How can black men be better and more receptive
Are you
to
giving
saying,
3 strikes and then they're out?
you know, and this is as somebody who has a really long fuse.
Yeah.
I have such a long fuse.
Yeah.
I think it's also just a part of my personality. Like, I don't internalize.
Yeah.
I don't internalize people things. So when somebody does something wrong, I think there's a lot of people who like internalize it of like, oh my God, this person hurt me.
Not that either.
And what is wrong with me? I never internalize that. When somebody does something, I am very clear that that's their shit. I never internalize it. And so it makes it easier to brush it off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, like, it's not showing up for me as like a wound, right? It's not showing up like as a personal wound that like, you did this thing for me. There are things that do show up like that for me. And in those moments, I'm kind of just like, this is it for me because there's no coming back from that. But it is really like what are you willing to work through?
Right.
What are your non-negotiables?
Yes.
What are you willing to support
Yep.
somebody through, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're dating somebody who's struggling with their mental health, is that something that you're willing to work with them through? Some people are not.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I will definitely take you back if you cheat on me.
I'm the worst at
but
bottom
if you,
lines.
yeah, but
I'm
if
the
you,
worst
but
at
if you,
bottom
but if you
lines.
start like going to therapy or saying that you're not feeling well, then I'm not having that. Like
Yes.
I can't be with no man that's
Yes.
depressed.
Yes.
Right. And so like people are just different. People weigh their things of like, what is your capacity?
Yep.
What can you do? How far can you take it?
Yes. And I feel like, too, like you said, pushing limits. You know, if more of us stood by what we said on the first time that we said it,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be experiencing this struggle of. We wouldn't be. Because if I told you from jump, this is not what I'm going to go for.
And you did it, then it would just be done.
Exactly. That would be the end of it. And then from there, if it's meant to be, I am an avid believer. If something's meant to be, it will be. If something is meant for you, it will come back to you. Whether it be now, a year from later, 5 years from later, 10 years
Yeah,
from later, I
absolutely.
always believe that. It'll come back to you more matured, better,
Yeah.
you know, more refined,
Yeah.
and just maybe better at that point in time.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of us, and this could be with our own internalized issues, you know, I go to therapy and my therapist all the time is like, girl, that's all she says to me is girl. She don't have no words to me. She's probably fed up with me at this point in time.
Aren't all our
they are
therapists
all
fed up
she's
with
so fed up.
us?
But I always go back on what I say.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in the moment, like you said, things don't hurt me. It takes a lot to hurt my feelings because I've just been so conditioned to hurt.
Yeah.
You know, once you start going through some shit, I feel like you develop a tough skin.
Yeah.
And I think as a black woman, we have developed
through some
tough
shit.
skin.
Been through some shit, just
That's
generally.
it.
Yeah.
So when we come across these men and they're dragging us or putting us through these seemingly hard times, for somebody that hasn't been through some shit,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, absolutely not. This
Yeah.
is it for me. I am packing my bags and I'm out of here.
But you're just like,
You're
oh, I've
You're
seen
like,
worse.
I've been through worse.
I've
You
been
know what
through
I
worse.
mean?
It's okay.
That's it. This is not a storm that I can't weather
Yep.
because I done been through worse shit.
And I think that that's really where the distinction is. Are you weathering the storm just because you can? But should you? Right?
Should
it's not
you?
about can you. Because I think that we've proved as people, just black people in general, I mean, our people survived the Middle Passage and hundreds of years, like Jim Crow. So I think that we've
We done
proved
survived
as
some shit.
I know. I
Yeah.
think we've proved as people that we can take some shit. But does that mean that we should
That
just because
doesn't
we
mean-
can? Exactly. Because, yeah.
So that's gonna totally fuel me into. What do you think about Sierra and Cassie's prayer? What do you think about Christina Million's prayer?
What prayer?
I don't know. It's the prayer. It's the
the-
prayer
it's
that's
the
all
hash-
over the internet. I don't think they said a prayer.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there are people who are saying that they must have prayed.
There are people that the internet is saying they said a prayer.
they said a prayer and they got their men.
But like you said, did they finally reach their limits? And
Yeah.
then they got their men.
You know, I think that the moment that you stop like self-violating by letting people cross your boundaries, then it's the moment where you're able to see clearly what are the things that are in front of you. And I think it's not just about like setting boundaries, but I think it's also getting clear about what are the things that are really important to
Hello.
you. Right?
Yes.
Like there was a moment where having a man that had a really nice job or drove
Yes.
a really nice car, like there was a place when those things were really important to me.
Yep.
And those things are not important to
Not
me anymore,
important.
right? Like I'm looking for emotional vulnerability.
Yes.
I'm looking for somebody who's like present there for me.
And that comes with age.
Absolutely.
That comes with age,
Absolutely. I think it comes with
experience.
age and experience. And you know, and I don't even know that I would say age, because I think that
Yeah, we're still fairly young, so that's true. Yeah.
And I think you can find some teenage girls or girls that are in their 20s.
This is true.
Who feel this way. You know what I
Yep,
mean? Like
yep.
I was saying earlier, is like I feel like the young people are learning.
Oh, they are. They're
faster-
definitely learning at a faster rate. And like you said, sometimes it takes for people to go through one thing to say, I never want to be here anymore.
Absolutely.
You know, something is so detrimental to them that they're like, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And obviously there are some things for people where it's like, this is bad, but you know.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think it was
yes.
after getting what I thought I wanted.
Yep.
And having it be
Trash.
a nightmare.
You're like, this is horrible. I hate it here.
that I was like,
Very
okay,
ghetto, would not recommend.
would not recommend. 0 out of 10. 0 out of 10 do not recommend. That I was just like, okay, wait a second. I need to be very clear about what I wanted, because I thought this is what I wanted, and then I got it. and then it was like awful.
That is me.
Right?
I have been there. And I convinced myself, I was dealing with somebody and I convinced myself, this is not what I want at all. I just was rebuking it all. And I went over here and I said, oh, shit, this is fucking worse. This is fucking worse.
Yeah.
And it was seemingly better and it seemed to be everything that I wanted.
Yeah.
And in reality, it was worse.
It was,
I was just like, wow, like, you need to hit the drawing board, sis. Number one, I'm an avid believer that people need to be alone for a certain point in time.
Yeah.
And they need to literally do some soul searching. That doesn't mean sleeping with men. That don't mean giving your body to these men.
Mean
no, I'm told,
listen,
hold on. Because you know.
Whole life or no life.
Whole life or no life. If you need to slide off on a Friday night real quick at midnight,
get your rocks off,
no
girl.
shame. But I dare you put that power into that man. I dare you be waiting for that man to call you the next day. Because that's
don't.
not what we're preaching about.
Please don't.
So if you are about to do some things for yourself,
Yeah.
that is one thing.
Absolutely.
But if you are the type to be attached to men, I do believe that there is a time period.
Yeah. If you can't do it, you can't do it.
If you can't do it,
if your spirit can't take
whole
it,
life ain't for
yeah,
everybody.
exactly. If your
It's
spirit
not.
can't take it,
Yes.
don't do it.
But if you have to get in touch with yourself to realize what you really need. And I said, there are not enough young black women. We're starting to.
Yeah.
We are starting to. We're starting to form relationships with women that we have never spoken to before.
Absolutely.
We're starting to form, like coalitions. There's groups going on. We're reaching out more. We're expressing ourselves more.
Yeah.
But before that, there wasn't none of that going on. You had who you had, and that was it.
Your friends were the people who you grew up with, and the
Correct.
people who you've been friends, regardless of how awful they were.
Exactly.
Those were your friends, and that was it.
Okay, so now we're getting the theory, you can meet new people, you can change, you can
Absolutely.
grow.
Yeah.
We're open to new opinions. We're open to seeing success, relationships in other people.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's fueling us to start making different decisions. But I think, like you said, Cassie, Sierra, and these other women, hell, did you know, I'm not even getting sidetracked, but I am, but Maya just got married?
No,
Girl.
I didn't know that.
Okay, then, right. And last I heard, she was with some trash guy. I was like, yet another, God damn it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's
Well,
how
what?
they get you. They get you. They think, and this is what I think. It's about the illusion of what you think you want.
That's the
right.
illusion.
It's like you're being served what you're supposed to want, and then you get it, and you're like, actually, the things that are important to me are family.
Right.
They're this. They're right.
Right.
And you start actually thinking about what are the things that are important to you, and then when you create that, then you start seeing, the forest for the trees. You're like, okay, wait a second. No, this is not. No. You start kind of weeding out until you get to the point where you're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I think. And this is another thing for me about just like Sierra and their prayers, that I think like the whole reason for me why that's a phenomenon is because we love a comeback fucking story.
We love it.
And when you see somebody just like struggling and getting just beat down,
beat down, dragged, we love to see it like,
we're just like, look, flourishing, but it's because we also want that for ourselves.
We want it for ourselves. I'm so mad. I'm so jealous.
We want a comeback story.
God damn it. Where's mine?
Yeah, you're just like, I've struggled. I have went through the pain and the sorrow.
I've been dragged.
We have waded in the water.
I've waded in the water.
Where is?
God damn it! Where's
the
my
comeback
Russell
story?
Wilson?
You know what I mean? Where's your comeback story?
But
And,
no, I agree.
Yeah. So
I
I think
agree.
that that's also a part of it. I think
It
that
is.
it's like, oh, what was the prayer? Because it's just like, how do we also, and it's not really about getting somebody who's just like Russell, it's like, how do I also get me a love that makes me feel filled?
But like you said, it starts with you.
Absolutely.
You
100%.
have to realize you had
Yeah.
enough, And I said, honestly, I mean, to hell with Future, whatever. We don't know what they up to. But at the end of the day, when you look back, it's almost comical when you leave from situations that never benefited you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so comical because my mom taught me this. She's like, when you leave a man, you're going to leave him and he's going to be right in the same place that you left him.
Of course.
She always told me that.
And Future is in the same place.
The same place. So I said, I find it, I said, I feel like more women should seek refuge in that saying.
Yeah.
When you finally start wanting more for yourself and you leave situations that are not good for you, again, this whole struggle love theory where we're saying that it's not real, but it exists with some people. When you leave this struggle of, sis, them same dudes is gonna be doing the same thing that you done left. Meanwhile, you're in a healthy relationship, you're happy, you're getting the things that you want. So it really boils down to us as a whole.
Yeah, and even if and to me, even if they aren't in the same place.
They in the same place.
No, but even if they weren't, right? Like even if somebody did grow and they went somewhere else, it's just like that wasn't for me, right? Like it's just like even just being able to say,
you're
like,
so diplomatic.
I'm just I'm just balanced, you know? Like I feel like there's something about being okay either way, right? Like I also don't want to, like I don't want to wish that homeboy stays in the same place.
I do. I do. My
Okay.
petty has not gotten there.
I feel
and
that.
I know there's a lot of other people that's petty hasn't gotten there. And no shade, but I just feel like certain people, you know, when your heart is broken,
Yeah.
I don't wish anybody bad.
Of course.
But I don't wish them well.
No, I feel that. But I think it's really
I don't care
important
where you're at.
for you to be able to say, it's because my heart is broken.
Oh, I'm so
You know what I mean?
I'm
It's
so
like
honest.
it's like I'm hurt,
My
and
feelings are
therefore
hurt.
I'm saying the things that I'm saying out of pain. And so
Yes.
like when you say the things, when you behave or act out of
Yes.
pain, it's like eventually when you heal from that pain, you don't wish that
It
anymore.
is true.
Yeah.
That's
So
you're
it's okay
correct.
to have those
when
feelings.
you heal from something, you're right. They
you
no
have
longer serve
you have to move through it, and so it's like the stages of grief.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Oh.
the stages of leaving a man alone, right? It's like you get to the petty of like I don't care what happens to him.
It is. No,
and
it is.
you move
It
through
is.
that eventually. Yeah.
But I said, honestly, my last thing that I really want to get your take on is, do you think that it's easier for men to kind of say something don't matter? Do you feel like in their hearts,
Say more.
like it doesn't, like a situation, like, okay, so say we're having problems and let's say a man really loves you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he's not fully ready to change. He doesn't even know what change looks like for himself yet. Some of them don't, you know? But he knows he cares about you. He knows he wants you in his life, but he's not entirely sure on what changes he needs to make about himself yet to keep you. And you decide to leave.
Yeah.
Do you think that they experience the same emotions that we experience during breakups?
If he loves you, absolutely.
You think?
Yeah, I think that we need to stop telling ourselves that just because they don't speak, that like the things that just because it's not visible, that it's not there, right? I think that we talked about earlier how men are conditioned to kind of like be hardened and not really share that. There's no way that you can in your heart care about somebody and not be heartbroken about the fact that something ended.
Yeah.
It's like we are human at the end of the day. And so I understand that it might seem like maybe, you know, but I think in my experience, as soon as they see you on to the next thing, now all of a sudden they're
So are you
heartbroken.
recommending we go on to the next thing?
I always recommend that you go on to the next thing. Listen, my recommendations about relationships are ask for what you need very clearly, explicitly, and all of the fucking time. If you are not getting what you need, you give the warning that I am not getting what I need. You give the warning. You switch it up or you don't. And guess what? You can give as many chances as feel good to you. But ultimately, what you're requiring and what you're asking for is change and transformation. And you're asking for your needs to be met.
Correct,
Whenever you get to that point where your needs are not being met anymore, then you have to know when to say when.
Can you still sleep with them?
Yes.
What about what about the emotional tie there?
All dick is good dick. No,
It is. I'm saying.
I'm kidding. I'm playing because
Don't do it. Cut it off.
No,
You gotta cut it off.
No. When I say all,
Wean yourself.
No. When I
Oh.
said I'm playing about all dick being good dick, I was referring to
devil
the
dick.
fact that
Some
men,
of them have these devil dicks.
Yeah, but some men also don't know how to fuck.
Yes, but what if you have one?
If it's good, go. Like yes,
So
I
keep sleeping with him.
you can.
Emotionally disattached.
But remember how we said, like, if your spirit can't take it, don't
if
do
your
it.
spirit can't take it,
If your spirit can't
yes,
take it, don't
sis.
do it. Because
But if you can do it, play him, use him.
Scam him, sis.
Scam him, sis. Okay. Period. City
You
girls
know.
taking over for 2020.
You know, because it's like this. If you're in love with somebody and y'all break up and you're gonna continue to sleep with him, and then you're gonna be mad that maybe he's going on a date with somebody else, like you do not need to do that. Like,
don't need to
You don't
do
need to be
that.
in your feelings. You don't need
Yes.
to be in your feelings like that. You don't need to be in your feelings like
That's
that.
me.
It's not-
Part of me wants
it's
to be
not
wholesome.
healthy.
you know, I'm not, I mean, the past me, I'm a new woman.
Yeah.
Past me used to want to be wholesome, and the past me used to be like, scam him.
Yeah.
Scam him for the D.
I hear that. You always have to, I think men are surprised when you're just
they're
like,
super surprised.
I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
You're like putting on your clothes, like, where you going? It's like, honey.
Out. Didn't wanna
I got
stay
what I
here
came
anyways.
for.
Yes.
You know, and I think that it's really difficult for men. Like, I know that it's typical for us to really say that like men sleep around and like
women are
men,
worse.
and,
And
you
that
know,
is a whole
it's like
nother- we ain't
men
telling all
can
of
just
our
like
tricks.
no, we're not snitching on ourselves here, but. You know, it's often that like it's like, oh, men sleep around and they can just go
They're
from
hoes.
like, well, yeah, exactly, like,
They're
oh, men
hoes.
are hoes and they can sleep around without any
Yeah.
emotional attachment. And I also think that it might be easier because of how they've learned to be emotionally detached.
This is
and so when like
true.
when you're in a relationship with a man and you feel like men are continuously not emotionally available to you,
Yeah.
it's like they're not emotionally available to nobody, and so
Right.
therefore they can sleep around and not be emotionally available with other folks. Whereas we're taught to kind of do so much emotional labor
Yeah.
for our children, our
Yep.
family members, and the men,
Yes.
that it's more difficult for us to kind of create that severance where we're just like, oh, we're not actually going to be emotionally available. I do think that there is a misconception that just because you're sleeping with somebody casually, that you don't have to treat them with human decency.
Oh my God.
Like
Oh my
you
God. A
still
whole
need to
nother
treat
episode
people
for a whole nother
with
time.
human decency, right? Like
Oh
you
my
should still be like
gosh.
nice and gentle
Is there
with each
sex
other.
etiquette? We're
It
gonna talk
need- yes,
sex
there
etiquette.
there has to be, because just because
Yes.
you're sleeping with somebody casually doesn't mean that like you don't get to say, hey,
Yep.
how you're doing, or like
Yep.
you don't have to have you don't have to care
Yes.
about what's happening with the other person if you're
Yes.
sleeping with them casually.
So next up, we are talking sex etiquette, because at
Agreed.
the end of the day, like
Casual
you said,
sex etiquette.
Casual sex etiquette. So like you said, there are rules to this. There are levels to this. And I feel like at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own happiness, whatever that may
Absolutely.
be. We
And your-
cannot
and-
put our
and your own
hearts-
orgasms.
Your own orgasms and your own happiness. I love this.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're absolutely there. So on the topic of reverting back to the Black love topic and
Oh,
getting to
yes.
where we were,
Yes.
right? There are a lot of nuances.
Yeah.
Everything is not black and white.
Correct.
Things are not clear and cut. It's really about really finding out what love looks like for you.
Yep.
I think for some people it might not be romantic, right? The things that you're looking for a relationship to fill you in, it might be friendships,
Yep.
right? You might need to nurture your friendships better to kind of fill that void,
Yep.
and so on and so forth. And
Yep.
so I think it's about getting really clear about what you need.
Yes.
And really being able to learn how to communicate what you
Yes.
need, and people learning how to listen to what people need and really providing that and loving each other.
I think you're so right, Kendra. Cheers to this, because I loved it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you took away everything that we said, because we said a lot. And tune in for the next episode of Real Talk over Riesling, right?
Yes, take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.